In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make bread. What I'm doing right here is taking whole wheat that I ground myself, and I'm mixing a sourdough that you let it sit overnight, maybe even longer, and then you can use this to make a slight sourdough bread. I only use about, I don't know, maybe 1 cup to 5 cups of white flour that I do, but it adds some flavor to your bread without affecting the rise too much. You can see here I'm mixing it to kind of a pasty consistency, and I'm going to let it sit overnight and then use it in the next video. Some of the most common mistakes that people do is adding too little water for the flour. I usually do about 1 cup of water for every 2 cups of flour if I'm doing a white bread. And if I'm doing a whole wheat bread, it's actually going to be 1 to 1. So you're going to do 1 cup of water for every cup of flour that you do. The other mistake that I see people do is that they knead it too much. It's important to let the water soak into the grain. So I mix it all and then I let it sit for a while, and then I knead it a little bit later on, but don't knead it too much. Alright, I want to talk to you about how I make bread. I do a combination of sourdough and regular flour. The reason I sour my dough is because I use whole wheat, and I found out a few years ago after I had a bunch of surface cavities on my teeth that if you eat whole wheat before it's been soured or fermented, it's got this anti-nutrient, these phytonutrients in it. I'm forgetting the word right now, but anyways, it'll actually leach minerals like calcium and iron out of your body. So you've got to ferment your whole wheat before you can actually cook with it. So I sit here, and yesterday I made this sourdough with my wheat, and you can see as I stir it, you'll see it'll start to bubble up and rise. So it's nice and ready to use. And what I'm looking for here is this kind of pasty consistency. Holds, but only a little bit. Anyways, so let's not be too scientific about this. I pretty much don't ever measure when I make bread anymore. That comes after experience. So if you talk to any true baker, they'll tell you that you have to measure everything by weight, not by volume. I don't do either. I actually do it all by feel nowadays. I'm not going to put salt in there right now. What am I doing? So there's a certain consistency I'm looking for. And the reason I do that is because the wheat that I'm grinding, I'm getting from a farm. And so you're not going to get a terribly consistent product like you get at the store. So you have to be a little bit more knowledgeable than the flour. You have to outsmart your flour. So this one right now, I'm going to do probably about 4 or 5 cups of white flour. And I think that was probably about 1.5 cups of whole wheat flour, but I don't know exactly, just to kind of give you a ballpark. This is definitely, you see how quick and dirty I'm making this. All right. And I'm gonna add salt, about 1 tablespoon of salt for that amount of flour. And I'm actually gonna add some baking soda. And the reason I do this is about 1 teaspoon. The reason I do the baking soda is because my boys hate the flavor of sourdough. Most people hate sourdough. I actually don't mind, but the baking soda helps kill the sourness. It'll help your bread rise a little bit, and then it kind of makes your bread give it a little bit of a pretzel flavor. I'm going to do a tablespoon of yeast, and that's just because I started this too late. If I was going to do this and had more time, I'd do 1 teaspoon or less, maybe even a 1/4 teaspoon of yeast, and I'd let it rise overnight. But I'm actually making this for today, so I want it to rise quickly, and this is for bread, so I'm not going to add sugar. If I was doing a pizza crust, I might add some sugar to brown up the crust. I'm going to add about half as many cups of water as cups of flour that I had. So I had, let's see, probably about 3 cups of water. And maybe too much, too little, we'll see. And I'm stirring it from the bottom to get up that sourdough that I had in there first. You see it's real sticky. Whoa, big mess. All right. So I'm stirring, I'm not kneading, I'm not doing anything you'll see a traditional baker do. I want this to be a real sticky consistency. If I put my hands in here, it's gonna get covered in flour, which is fine. But I want the dough to be really, really sticky. And you see, this is actually a little drier than I normally like it, but that'll be fine. You see how sticky it is? that's it. I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna let it rise. A lot of mistake that people make when they're making baking bread is they try and knead it all at once, and they'll just go crazy kneading this dough. The problem is you got to let the water soak all this wheat, and it takes 20 minutes to an hour for this wheat to get really soaked. You'll come back later, I don't know, an hour or two from now, and I'll flour a surface and I'll fold it in half, and you'll see that in a little bit. But you just see how sticky this is. I'll wash off my hands and I'll cover this with plastic wrap, and I'll just set it aside, not too warm, not too cold, just on the counter here. You want to keep it out of the sunlight.